Alright, we back, man. Y'all already know we do the shout outs at the end of the video. Make sure you watch to the end of the video, see them shouting you out. Everybody new to the channel, yo, subscribe real quick, hit that notification, man, and let us know where you watching from in the comments. Every video we shout somebody out and where they watching from. As you can see, New York looking amazing right now, nighttime, but the city's still lit up. Yo, I want to know where y'all watching from. Now, we gonna get into this real quick. This New York City versus London. Y'all know my channel is only built on them two places, or the UK and New York. Y'all already know. Let's see what they talking about. New York versus London. Y'all know I'm going to go with New York already, but let's see what this is about.
According to Travel and Leisure magazine, the best city in the world right now you could visit is San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, followed by Charleston in the USA, followed by Chiang Mai in Thailand. These three places, however, don't even get on the top 20 places to actually live in this year's quality of living.
Yo, real quick. He already starting off with something I'm not feeling. What do you mean place to visit is, I don't know what his list is from, but Charleston, have y'all, man, ain't nobody want to visit over there. And San Miguel, Mexico, and shit. Man, if you don't get out of here with that, let's keep it going on.
By Chiang Mai in Thailand. These three places, however, don't even get on the top 20 places to actually live in this year's quality of living index.
I already see I'm about to be disagreeing with this a lot, I could tell.
A yearly list compiled by HR firm Mercer. Apparently, if you want to live the good life, you should move to Vienna, Austria, Zurich, Switzerland, or Auckland, New Zealand.
Now I hear Zurich. Okay, I'm feeling that part. I don't know about the other two spots as far as best places to live, but I do hear Zurich is one of the best places to live on earth. I do hear that.
The top 20 list doesn't include any cities from the UK or the USA, two countries that have arguably been the two heavyweights in the last century regarding power and wealth. These two countries, however, contain cities that attract millions of overseas visitors every year.
I'm not gonna lie, yo. In the US, I think Austin, Texas, or Houston can be up there, though. You know what I mean? And I think you gotta throw LA in there. You know what I mean? I love New York, but New York, mad expensive. A lot of people won't throw it as top.
Today, we are going to compare them in this episode of the infographic show, New York City versus London. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. The cities are two of the most visited places in the entire world. In 2016, though, the most visited city in the world by international travelers was Thailand's capital, Bangkok. 21.47 million people visited Bangkok that year. In second place was London with...
I think this changed from 2016 to now, though, because I know... I'm going to look at the new list. I'm going to look at the new list and do another video. You know what I mean?
19.88 million visitors. And in third place was Paris with 18.03 million visitors. The most visited US city was New York City, and that was in fifth place with 12.75 million visitors. Dubai was in fourth. In the last 5 years, Bangkok held the first position 3 times and London twice. In our comparison, we might thereby deduce that London is more visitable than New York City.
Don't agree. Yo. Well, I don't know. So I feel like I know London and New York like the back of my hand. And I feel like on a visiting tip, I don't know. That's the opinion. You know, it can go either way. Let's keep it going.
Let's find out why. First, we will take a look at the two cities' abridged history. We'll start with London as it's the elder. The city of London is old, but nowhere near as old as some cities in the Middle East, China, or other parts of Europe. You'll know from our show on the British and Roman empires that Britain was invaded by the Romans in 43 AD. They established the city of Londinium that at the time was about the size of a small village in England right now. When the Romans left Londinium, it was pretty much a ghost town.
Yo, real quick, I like this dude, the infographic. I like his channel, yo. His channel is real... It's like informative and all that, you know what I mean? I really like it. And I think what I was going to say is the fact that London is so much older, or the UK as a whole is so much older, just seem a little more historic. That do give it a slight edge on New York, you know what I mean?
For hundreds of years, it remained so. Even the invading Vikings didn't do much with it, and it wasn't until the Normans invaded from France and subjugated the country that London became a powerful city. William the Conqueror made London the Norman stronghold, building the famous Tower of London. The Normans would be the last people to this day to successfully invade England. In medieval times, London grew in power and wealth, but that also included the spread of poverty, corruption, and greed among the upper echelons of society, and bouts of population-denuding plagues. It wasn't until 1850 that London became the largest city in the world in terms of population.
Wow, I didn't know that. 1850, that wasn't even that long ago. Like, it was long ago for us, but, you know what I mean? That ain't that long ago. That's like our great-grandmother's grandmother, you know what I mean? Or her mom, you know what I mean? So that's not that long ago. And the fact that that's when it just became... I thought London was probably the biggest city ever since like 1600s, honestly.
Some sources say it was as early as 1825, though most scholars agree that London was the most populated city until the 1920s. Another city then took over right up until the 60s, and that was the city of New York. Long before New York City had high-rise buildings, it was the stomping ground of Algonquin natives who hunted and fished where people now trade stocks and eat pastrami sandwiches.
That is crazy how like the Native Americans had New York or had just United States, and like how serious New York became, and you know what I mean, they're not really getting nothing for it, you know what I mean, like, and that was their land. That is kind of wild. Let's keep it going.
It wasn't until 1624 that European settlers would start a community in the city when families of the Dutch West India Company made a home of Nutten Island. That's now known as Governor's Island and is between Manhattan and Brooklyn. Being Dutch, they called this place New Amsterdam. Some historians say that the Dutch bought the area from the natives for a few trinkets.
They bought it from the natives? That's what they say? What history books say that?
Some historians say that the Dutch bought the area from the natives for a few trinkets. The peace between the natives and the Euro expansionists didn't last, and the trouble ended with a lot more native casualties than Dutch casualties. New Amsterdam soon covered much of what we regard as New York City today, but the imperialistic Brits, guided by London prospectors, would soon burst the Dutch bubble. On August 26, 1664, 4 British frigates sailed to New Amsterdam and in a bloodless coup took control and renamed it New York after the Duke of York, not the city of York, in the north of England.
Wow, I didn't know that New York was named after the Duke of York. That's crazy.
At that time, the city had about 1,500 Europeans and 375 Africans, most of whom were slaves. It remained that way for over 100 years, and even when America...
That's really deep, so we're gonna bring that back real quick.
375 Africans, the city had about 1,500 Europeans and 375 Africans.
So about 1,500 Europeans and 375 Africans. So about a fourth of the Europeans were African. You know, it's so crazy how like people don't know like blacks was here since the beginning of you know what I mean, like America turned into America. Like it's crazy. A lot of people don't realize that these streets was built, these buildings that you see, you know what I mean, like everything was built by blacks. That's crazy.
Most of whom were slaves. It remained that way for over 100 years, and even when American independence was on the cards, New York City was a stronghold for British loyalists. In 1783, the British were forced out, and in 1789, it became the first national capital of the US. Only in 1790 did the capital become Washington, D.C. Like London, the growing city had its fair share of growing pains, including great fires and huge loss of life due to yellow fever and cholera. Nonetheless, by 1850, the population was more than 550,000, and New York City had become a center of the world. So now we come to the present day. The population of London right now is thought to be about 8.7 million. This has spiked lately due to the arrival of ethnic minorities that make up about 44% of the city's population. London covers an area of 607 square miles, making it the biggest city in Europe. New York City has a population of 8.538 million, and it is mixed in terms of ethnicity.
Okay, these numbers is wrong. I know for a fact New York, our population is more than 8.5 million, so I'm not sure about these numbers, and I'm not sure what he's calculating as New York. Is he saying Manhattan, or is he saying the whole New York, the 5 boroughs? Because the 5 boroughs have way more than 8.5 million. Let's keep it going. Matter of fact, let me look it up real quick. Now, I know this was 2016, but let's see. I think we're supposed to be at like 14 million if I'm not mistaken, but we at 18 million as of 2020. So we at 18,804,000. So I highly doubt since 2017 we got 10 million more. You know what I mean? So I don't know about that. Yeah, New York City. So I don't know where these numbers is coming from. Let's keep it going though.
About 44% of residents are white Caucasian, 27% Hispanic, 25% Black or African American, with a much smaller mix of other ethnicities. The city covers 304 square miles and is the biggest city in the USA, though considerably smaller than London. But with almost equal populations, this means New Yorkers have far less space. So what about the standard of living in these cities? They are both pivotal cities regarding the financial sector, though one website claims that London's financial sector is slightly bigger with 340,000 employees to New York's 322,000. As of March 2017, the Global Financial Centers Index puts London at the center of the world, with New York hot on its heels in the number 2 spot. New York has more billionaires, with 103 in 2017 according to Forbes, while London only has 72. London is said to have better job growth though.
I do know we have the most billionaires in the world, so I do know that. I think it's more than, let's check that real quick. So New York City billionaires, and we got the most millionaires also. So right now we at how many billionaires? So what he said? He said 100. Alright, so New York we got, man, I'm not about to look this up right now. Yeah, but if you ever look at 740 Park Avenue, is a documentary too, is a building that has the most billionaires in the world also, 740 Park Ave. But let's keep it going.
Over the last decade. For the average Joe among us, how is life in these cities? Again, it depends on which source you read. The latest cost of living index by Expatizen puts New York as the 5th most expensive city to live in the world, and London in 12th, with food and housing in New York being more expensive, but clothes and transportation being cheaper. The Guardian reports that after Brexit, London got a lot cheaper, stating that the city has recently arrived at a newfound bargain basement status. In fact, according to the website Numbeo, that compares cost of prices around the world, the cities are fairly equal in terms of eating, going out, shopping, but just a bit more in New York. Renting in London is cheaper than New York if you're not renting high-end apartments, but actually buying a place is much more expensive in London on average. Travel is more expensive in London, whether you buy your own gas or use public transportation. Gas and electric is also more expensive in London, but internet is almost half the price of New York on average. Education is more expensive in New York, and it's thought that inner-city London schools are a bit better than inner-city New York schools. The average wage in New York is $4,542 a month, while in London it is only $2,952 a month. That might sound bad for Londoners, but they do get free healthcare, lots of paid vacation, and in general, better workers' rights.
What do y'all think about the free healthcare, man? So I be getting mixed feelings on it when I talk to people about it. That's something I always admire about like Canada and the UK, the free healthcare. But a lot of people say like it's not all as hyped up to be. Tell me about it in the comments. Let me know what y'all think about it. Out here, we gotta pay. You know what I mean? Let's keep it going now.
Money aside, what about the general day-to-day creature comforts? Well, as London is much bigger, it also has more space. With that, you get more parks and more green spaces. At the same time, New York is easier to get around, and some people speaking on forums say, a bit more fun, as it's compact, and unlike London, is more of a 24-hour city. If you are out at night, London may have more crimes in terms of robberies and assaults, but New York has more murders. According to Numbeo, respondents to a survey said they felt similar about safety in London and New York. It seems the difference is bigger crimes are more common in New York, but your chances of finding trouble on the street is more likely in London.
So New York, most of our crimes happen in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. That's most of them. We do get some in Queens, some in Manhattan, but for the most part, Brooklyn, East New York, Brownsville, you know what I mean? Them areas, Bushwick, them areas really get the crime. I know London, y'all can tell me in the comments. I know some, but I ain't gonna sit here and act like I know it like that, Let me keep it going.
We should, however, take this to those that have lived in both cities. According to one American man who did both for many years, he said on a forum thread that both cities were too expensive even when single. He loved the open, sprawling green spaces in London and at times didn't like the noisy, claustrophobic streets of New York.
Yeah, when you're single, it's going to be more expensive because you ain't got nobody to split the rent with, you know what I mean? See, he was tripping. He was supposed to get him a girl out there, get married, get the dual citizenship, and figure out which one is cheaper, you know what I mean? Let's keep it going.
He did, however, like the fact that in New York, you could sit down anywhere and find enjoyment, while London was too spread out for him at times. The writer agreed with the sites we cited already on costs of things, also the heavy workload in the US for most people, but did say in terms of meeting new people, socializing, or partying, New York is easier. One more thing he pointed out that we didn't mention yet was the weather, which is a deal breaker for some people. New York has colder winters and can have steaming hot summers, whereas London is cool, damp, and gray for much of the year, with some warm weeks in summer and only a moderately cold winter compared to New York.
What weather do y'all like better, man? Because both got whack weathers, but it's true. I feel them on that. London is always, it got that depressing, gray, rainy weather. New York, when it's hot, it's hot. When it's cold, it's cold. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be the max of whatever it is.
We'll end it there with the weather. Have you lived in or visited either of these two cities? If so, we'd love it if you shared your opinion in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other
Yo, man, shout out the infographic. What is it? The infographic show. Yo, they joint be fire, man. I actually follow them, you know what I mean? I watch they joints, it's fire. Now in the comments, let me know what y'all think, man. Let me know if y'all feeling what he was saying, if y'all feeling what I was saying. Let me know of it. And let me know who been to both, who like where better. You know me, I'm gonna go with New York first. Second favorite place is London. And yo, let's get to the shout out too. I was about to forget the shout out. We gonna shout out Fred Power, man. He the one that told me to do it. He was like, yo, react to New York, London versus New York by the infographic. So shout out my man Fred Power. Other than that, man, I'm gonna see y'all on the next one. All right, peace.